Hello, hello, beautiful purpose-driven entrepreneurs. Welcome to another beautiful summit. We're back with another amazing lineup of amazing guests. I just can't believe that we get to put so many amazing, brilliant, purpose-driven entrepreneurs together to really give so much value through their work and through their life purpose. Really, at the end of the day, I think that's really what unites us as purpose-driven entrepreneurs. This is an author summit, so all the amazing speakers that are joining us have written an amazing legacy product, which is what I call books, because books obviously are those products that can really drive down to generations and generations, right? So it's everyone's life experience, it's everyone's topics of expertise that you can put in a book. So I know how important that is, not only to grow your business, but also to make an impact. So the theme of the summit is an author summit. So the summit is sponsored by the Life School, where our mission is to empower entrepreneurs with the right education and skills to build a legacy business on purpose. I'm your host, Alona Lapari. And as I said, I brought you amazing guests today, and they will be speaking regarding the motivation behind the purpose behind or the inspiration behind why they wrote their books, some of the main nuggets or from the message of the content of their book. And also they will leave you with inspiration based on their entrepreneurship journey, whatever they have learned from their school of life, as I say, that they would like to share with you. So it's going to be an action-packed summit. So I would want to invite you to let us know in the comments where you are logging in from. I'm able to pull up the comments as the speakers are going up live. So we want to make this a fun party and conversation. So let us know how you are enjoying the summit, and also any feedback or any impact, I say, from all the amazing speakers that will be going after me. So as I said, I'm Alona Lopari. I also wrote my book, Connecting the Dots Backwards. So if the speakers have their books next to them, bring your babies with you, because I know that this is always something that is born out of a moment of inspiration that you just want to share your message with the world. That was my main motivation from writing Connecting the Dots Backwards towards your ultimate life vision. And it's a blueprint from the leader within, because I do believe, especially as women, we're all leaders in our own ways, and we all have beautiful natural gifts. And really, if we look back at all our life experience, it's always connecting the dots between our past and how that actually shaped our character, our values, for the work that we're doing today in the world. And exactly in this present moment, we are shaping our destiny for our ultimate vision that we want to bring to life through our businesses. So that was my motivation for writing my book. So I can't wait to invite my first speaker up, and she will talk about exactly that. So Betty Withrow, Betty, thank you so much for being part of our amazing summit. And I would love to hear a little bit more regarding the inspiration behind the writing of your book, some of the main messages that you really feel compelled to share with us, and maybe something that you have learned from your school of life, and just your overall journey. It doesn't have to be entrepreneurship that you would like to share with our audience. You have the stage. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to connect with you, Alona, and to be part of this summit. I've written several books. I'm a book creation coach and author and a ghostwriter, a copywriter for businesses. And I found that in the course of being a coach, there was a lady who had great ideas for her book and they didn't seem to quite happen, and I was getting frustrated by these excuses that seemed to her to be reasons. And instead of being angry at my friend for being who she was, I decided it would be better to use the creative energy in a different way. And so I wrote this book that I call The Essential Excuse Handbook: 77 Ways to Keep from Doing Anything at All. And as I wrote the book, I found more and more that I actually am an excuse expert, because I myself had used or accepted all these excuses myself. So it was a deep dive into some very illuminating work. It was very uncomfortable to tackle this topic, I have to tell you, and it was really worth it because I learned so much more about how people defend. You get into overwhelm, and then the next step is to create an excuse around it. And that what it is it's taking life away from you. Excuses eat your life and destroy your life. And so I have found that people really get a lot from this book. I put humor into it to make it so that you can address this very serious topic in a way that you can relate to it. So those are some of the insights. And when I find that I'm stuck, I go in there and they're numbered. Each excuse has a number. I go in there and go, okay, what else did you teach yourself earlier? Go back and listen to yourself.
I love that. Excuses. We all make them, and they hurt us so much. And a lot of times they're so unconscious and we're not so aware, right?
Right.
Especially when we grow and grow our businesses and really, step up our lives to the next level. I know that those could really creep up there. So, based on your experience, Betty, what are some of the things that we should do to stay aware? What are some of the most common excuses that we really come up with as human beings that really stops us from making the progress that we want to make?
Well, I think in terms of the theme of this summit, the excuse number 22 is why me. And when you have this going on, it's a victim idea of what your life is. But if you turn that around, you find that the reason that it's you is because you are the unique person in the whole universe who has the ability to deal with the situation or to take care of the situation that you're in using your own strengths. And the why me excuse is a way of distancing yourself from your own strengths. So if you step back and I put questions here too. Um, who would you need to be in order to step into that vision and take that role that you're resisting?
Mm. Yeah, no, I love that. Love those questions. And I like that it's a workbook because a lot of times, writing and getting that clarity just by kind of reflecting back on ideas and things that,
Mhm.
taking that information that you put and also applying it is really so helpful and valuable for everyone's reflections towards, what are some areas of their lives that might be making excuses and I might be even aware of. So, I love
Right.
that the work that you're doing with the book there, and the work that you do overall is you help other people write their books. Tell me a little bit more regarding your bigger vision or your bigger, the work that you do in the world, and how do
Okay.
you help other people?
Okay. I specialize in working with authors who have an idea that hasn't really landed for them yet, or getting them off to a start. Clarity and momentum is my focus when I work with my book clients. To like I said, a lot of people have an idea for a book, and their ideas are just floating around. Maybe they have two or three ideas at once, and they don't know where to start. So what I say is, the first question is, what do you want this book to do? So I work with people to get that up and running, creating a custom system for each author. I'm also an editor of various types of materials, and if called upon, I can do ghostwriting as well. I write copy for businesses, and so I'm just a language person. It's really my passion to get people connected so that their thought can go onto a page and then be picked up by someone else's mind and go into the world and grow up.
Mm. Yeah, that's beautiful work because I know that purpose is so important. Sometimes we all want to write. Maybe if you are a beginning writer, I remember
Mhm.
all the conflict I felt as I put this
Yeah.
book together. Of what am I writing about? I don't know what I'm writing about. Right? Who's going to want to hear this? Who's going to want to read the book? Right? All the imposter
Mhm.
syndrome that come up. So I think clarifying the purpose of you writing your book and tying it to your bigger vision and purpose really helps you with the fears of kind of like the beginning process that everyone is through. Um, how to actually put a book together. Betty, I thank you for everything that you shared with us. And one last question I have for you is, from your entrepreneurship journey so far, what is it that, like a lesson or a challenge that maybe you had to overcome that you want to share with your audience?
Okay. A big challenge that I've overcome is feeling that I can simply present myself as I am and be ready to connect with the people who can relate to that and let go of needing to be everybody's Betty, so to speak. uh, I can be the person I really am, and the people who are drawn to that are the people that I'm meant to work with. And I mean, learning to be fully engaged with my own process at the energy level that works for me and not trying to be everywhere at once.
Ooh, that was awesome. Thanks so much for sharing that. I think that is such a big thing, working on your authentic power and finding our authentic power and just, settling that it's whoever I am, this is who I am, and showing up authentically in all these other areas of your life and business is so important. It's something that we're always discovering, I always find, because you're always evolving.
Right.
So so much for sharing that. And I will go to my next speaker next, and she will also share a little bit regarding her journey and similar format to Betty. So, Heather Andrews. Heather, thanks so much for being part of our summit today. Nice to have you here.
Hello, welcome everybody. Great to be here. Thank you, Ilona. I am Heather Andrews and I have a publishing company. So, my journey started writing a chapter in a compilation book, and those compilation books became near and dear to my heart. And I have now published 10 of those on my own and alongside over 200 authors as well. And we have 50 books underneath the Get You Visible branding. So the power of your story. So I help women understand their story matters. And when you encompass all of your life experience, the education that you have, all of that, we find that commonality. And so, as a story mentor and publisher, I help you bring that into one book. I'm currently working on my own solo book, which I'm on chapter 12, and it's going to be called And It's Just Me now, and it'll launch in 2023. But I have created underneath Heather Andrews 10 compilation books, and the topics of the books that um, we have the two, which is obstacles equal opportunities and the self-love series, because the one thread that I have found in any person's story is self-love, and it's their own happiness, their own well-being. And any time that you step into something, to run a business, to write a book, to be a better parent, it's all that self-love. And to step into better relationships, it's all about self-love. So when you step into the power of your story, you kind of shift a little bit, because your story is your relatability. So how you have a company or a business, your story is the first step to being relatable to someone else. Hence why we're all here today, right? Because it's a story that is connecting us. And with your education and your experience, it's your story is relevant. And so many of us don't take into the account how our story can be someone else's lifeline. And I've seen it in the 200 authors, both men and women, that I've published. And so it really is, and you have a team to back you up, because so often, probably excuse number one is, I can't write. Well, you can. That's why you have people like Betty and myself and other people to help you. And you have an editing team, and you have all of these wonderful people and tools that you can use to share your story. And so I always talk about, your self-love, common thread, love yourself enough to get visible in your business and your life, right? And that's where the power of the book comes into play. And then you have the relatability factor, because it's the relatability factor that really comes into that space of connecting, right? Because everybody always asks, what do you do? And your backstory is why you do what you do, right? And then you're a resource. And when you bring all of your story and your education and your wisdom, it really is about being the resource. So when I think about some of the things that I've learned, is Love yourself enough to step into the visibility. Share your story. Someone else needs to hear it. And you can't be a success and a secret at the same time. So if you want your business to grow, you have to step in to the visibility and know that you're deserving and receiving of all things great. And you just really need to step into that power of your story because it matters. So that's all I really have to say. I just know that publishing books has changed my own life, and I've heard it time and time again how it has really changed, the lives. And I've always said with every book that we do, if it changed one life, it worked. So we're good. And whether it became a bestseller or not, you put your story out there. And sometimes we think that we have to write a whole book, but we don't. There's compilations that are there so that you can, it's an introductory, I call them the beer taste test way of publishing, because you can step in to writing a chapter and then that takes you into becoming comfortable with your story. And then you can go on to publish your own book. So.
Wow, you can be a secret and a success story at the same time. Someone has got to
No,
quote
no,
that.
you can't. You can't be.
You
Can't
can't.
be. You can't be a
Exactly.
success and you can't be a success and a secret at the same time. You have to choose one or the other. So
Yep. I love that. That is so, so crucial. So true. Heather, I always wonder from you guys that write, so many books that are into this and you help so many people write their books. Do you have your favorite? I feel like it's like a parenting. It's like, do you have your favorite child? Like, which one is your favorite book out of all the books that you've written?
my favorite is probably the self-love series, because so often people step into their worthiness and to know that their story matters. And it's probably the one that I got the most reach outs as to how it changed people's lives.
Yeah, wow, love that. And another question that just like popped up as I was going through this journey is like a lot of times when you're writing, you're self-healing, right? And you're discovering so much from the depth of your soul, your experience. You might even utilize that process, as you said, you help so many clients go through that process, and it is a process, right? Everyone can write, absolutely. But you figured out that you kind of have transformed yourself through that process personally. What's your insight on that?
Um, I think writing has been so cathartic for me, and I've learned so much and just about self. And that's where I always say that this is like a transformational journey. Writing in a chapter, writing your own book, or working with someone who can help you through your story, because it really does. It helps you celebrate who you are. And I always say the best love affair that you can have is discovering yourself.
Mm, absolutely, amazing, amazing stuff. And Heather, one last question regarding your journey so far, being an entrepreneur. What would you like to share with us?
Um, in terms of being an entrepreneur, people need to hear from you. They need to know why you do what you do. And just stay to the story. Like, your stories are going to fade off and your story's going to change. And it really does. So step into the blank pages is really sort of, and step into the new chapters. And on my arm here, I've got my own mantra, which is I am the creator of my own story. And that has probably been the best thing that I can say about the world of entrepreneurship is the people that I've met, the stories that I've heard, and it really is about that ever changing and ever evolving story. So just know that you are the creator and you don't have to hang on to the old stories. They're old for a reason, but celebrate the good and the bad and just know that that's what the essence of your soul.
Wow, powerful. Thanks so much for sharing that and everything you shared so far. Really, really
Thank
amazing
you.
stuff. Awesome. Now I'm going to my third speaker, Katina Horton. Katina, thanks so much for being with us today. Love to hear a little bit more regarding what you want to share with us. You have the stage.
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Katina Horton, and I consider myself the love and freedom toxic relationship recovery coach. And I want to share a little bit about why women continue to go into the narcissistic abuse relationship cycle. Okay. And so what happens is that ever since we were little girls, we all dream about like being a fairy tale princess who gets married to her knight in shining armor type of thing, right? And the problem with this concept is that it involves disillusionment, and we mistake fairy tales for real life. And so, in real life, when we find ourselves with a knight in shining armor who sweeps us off our feet and roses galore, that type of thing, 9 times out of 10, we are dealing with a narcissist. And so when we think, though, that when we set ourselves up for thinking that we're going to have this fairy tale situation, what we do is set ourselves up for being on this hamster wheel, I call it, of going from one soul tight toxic relationship to the next. And then your question might be like, well, why does this keep happening to me? And it keeps happening because there are unresolved issues that need to be healed, and then you've got to go and take a trip back to the beginning. You got to go back to, when I say the beginning, you're going back to the Garden of Eden, and you're going back to your family's love story garden. And so until this happens, you're going to keep repeating what I call the 5L cycle of freedomology. And that's love, lies, limiting beliefs, learned stress response, and limited worldview, in that order. And so when it comes to love, that means you went searching for your family's love story garden instead of God's, right? And you might say, well, what do I mean by that? We've got God's love that's perfect, and his perfect love casts out fear, right? And then his story begins and ends with lavishing us with unconditional love. Our identities are grounded and rooted in him. And then as humans, we're just imperfect, right? And so if we're imperfect humans, then that means that our parents' love, right, used as an earthly resource of God's love, is imperfect as well. It's filled with brokenness, sin, and love story gardens with toxic roots. And so, if you are that female, for the women, the toxic roots would be lies that say love is abuse, love is devalued, love is abandonment. And then for that narcissistic man, it would be in his love story garden: love means I abuse women. Love means I devalue women. Love means I abandon them emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, financially, etc. Okay? And so from these roots contain the lies, and they provoke fear of not receiving what we need. Okay. And so from birth to 18 months, our entire little being is banked on that need slash security from our parents or caregivers, right? And then what happens is that our parents' ways of displaying love and being attuned to our needs, right? It led us to developing one of 4 attachment styles. Either we are going through secure attachment, anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, or fearful avoidant attachment, right? And so then there's also the case where some of us could have started off with secure attachments. Something happened in childhood or as a teenager, and then that traumatic event changed your attachment style. And then also, depending on what relationships we're in, where some people are just not emotionally safe, our attachment style could change, if that makes sense. And so our family's love story garden, it begins and ends with whatever lies Satan made our ancestors, which is our parents, grandparents, great grandparents, believe about love and freedom. Okay. And what do? We drank the Kool-Aid, so to speak. We took the lie and we ran with it, right? And so we saw everything that looked good on paper about this man. We used the same criteria that Eve used in the Garden of Eden. The first thing is that she saw that it looked good for food. So we're like, oh, he's a good provider. And then number 2, aesthetically pleasing to the eyesight, right? We did the same thing. And then number 3, she saw that it was one to make her wise. So we thought that he had a lot of wisdom. So in turn, we were going to be wise right along with that, right? And so the other thing that happened in our family's love story garden is that either we were not provided with the nutrients that we needed, or like with Eve, we allowed someone else through a spirit of deception to trick us into thinking that we were not getting the nutrients that we needed. And those things enabled us to take on the seed of rejection and the spirits of anger, bitterness, and offense. And so what we did is just started wearing these as if we were wearing a garment of praise. We start wearing these around, right? And so what Satan did, the way that Eve ended up with the seed of rejection, is that he made her think, believe the lie that God's love was restrictive. You see what I'm saying? And so, in other words, that unspoken message was, "Honey, you missing something. You're not made like everybody else. You a manufacturer reject." And so he also got into her head that she needed to have just as much power as God had, right? Which implied also that God was a liar and that he'd been keeping this secret all along. And it also implied that human beings should have the same power, control, and sovereignty as God, right? So we went through love and we went through lies. And then the third L of the 5L cycle is limiting beliefs. We inherited trauma starting with Eve in the Garden of Eden, and we've been struggling ever since. And this inheritance infected us with the same lie that love is restrictive, right? And then in turn, that led to the limiting belief, I'm not enough, right? And so we ended up with a double whammy. So first we inherited Eve's lie and limiting belief in our DNA, right? Making us conclude God's love is not enough, God is not enough, right? Then the second thing is that we inherited the lies and limiting beliefs from our parents because of the way that they displayed love, right? And according to, like I said, our secure attachments combined with our personality style and wiring, right? All of that came into play. And so we equated our earthly parents' brokenness, their displays of love, wiring, deficiencies, and abilities with God's, right? And that's not a comparison, right? And that brought about the lying limiting belief number 3. We concluded we ourselves are not enough. And so what happens is that as long as Satan can convince us that God's love isn't enough, our souls will always crave a substitute. We won't look inside to find the answer, right? Because we have the Holy Spirit inside of our vessels. We'll look outside to everything else to be the solution of our problems. And so that limiting belief, I'm not enough, rather, led to an internal struggle. And that internal struggle created a stress response. And so every time our family showed us love their way, it reinforced the limiting belief that became our operating system. And with Eve in the Garden of Eden, her stress response, first of all, was fight. And the unhealthy form of fighting could be, of course, literally physically fighting, throwing things, slamming doors. But she did a healthy one, at least a little bit of a healthy one, I guess I would say, because you could talk, you could try to reason with somebody. She started over explaining and oversharing what God had told her and Adam. So she went from that to the next thing when he continued to gaslight her. And when I say he, I'm referring to the serpent. And then the next stress response that set in is that she ended up fawning, which is also another name for fawning, would be please or please. Please appease, where you try to you try to please the abuser and keep them comfortable at all costs. And so she self-sabotaged by eating the apple, right? And we inherited all of this from Eve. And so we also have developed our own learned stress responses, right? And so then what happened is this inherited trauma from Eve forever changed how we see the world, which leads us to the fifth L, which is limited worldview, right? And so that means that it forever changed how we see the world. And so we started saying stuff like, everybody else is responsible for my choices except me. The only way I can stop people from abusing me is to either fight them or please appease them. The only way to deal with sin and stress is to eliminate vulnerability, hop on a plane and go somewhere. That's flighting, the flight response, and run away from God and others since I think I'm not perfect anyway. I deserve the treatment I'm getting from this person, place, thing, or idea I'm soul tied to because I'm not enough. So that woman goes through that 5L cycle, right? The brain remembers what's familiar. She takes this cycle instead of healing and taking time to work and grow on herself. She just continues to go from one narcissistic relationship to the next and thinking if she could just find the perfect man, that would resolve the problem.
Whew, Katina, I know we had a spiritual connection, but wow, I love the way you just story told
Oh,
all
thank
the
you.
all the the different things we feel if we are in those types of relationships, and what we go through and why we do that. So you really went to the core of this, and I have to re-listen to this after for sure to
Okay.
grasp a lot of the key messages, because it was so powerful and deep what you just shared with us.
Thank
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much for, connecting the dots for us, right?
thank
Connecting
you.
the dots, because a lot of times we do find ourselves in these situations. I don't have a personal story or experience, but I know so many people that do. And we just, we're not aware. We don't really understand what we're going through. So you just story told that so
Thank you.
masterfully, I should say. Katina, how has your entrepreneurship journey or your spiritual journey has evolved over the time with the work that you actually do in the world? What is there something that you like to share with the audience that might be helpful to them as well, based on your experience?
You know what? I would say that three things is that number one, putting God at the forefront of your business and letting him be the CEO, and knowing that his will is number one over your will and everybody else's will for how your business should look, business slash ministry slash calling. And then number two, I would say to remain your authentic self. Sometimes we see other people doing things, and not that we can't get a template from them. However, if we're not careful, we'll want to take on that person's personality and wiring and all of that. When we're wired up differently, that person is who they are and have been anointed to do what it is they're doing because of their wiring, because of their life experiences, their pain, their trauma, etc. And so I like to say, if I like to call it partial ownership when we do that, because if we want to own their highlight reels, we got to own the whole journey of pain and heartache that goes along with that. You understand what I'm saying? I have a saying that's owning your story means owning your healing. Disowning your story is disowning your healing. So when we own our own stories, then that way we can be our authentic self instead of trying to be someone else's. And then number three, I would say it's important to set up boundaries for your business and your business relationships and the people that you interact with. Sometimes people come into play, especially when you're dealing with social media, and being out like in the forefront of the public, and they might have a certain persona, but they're wearing a mask. And sometimes it might take 3 or 4 months before you really see the intentions of that person's heart before it comes to play. So just setting up, that it's important to set up boundaries, because just like boundaries would be the emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical life gates of the soul, the mind, body, and soul. They're also the same thing when it comes to our business. All of that applies to our business as well.
Wow. Amazing. Thank you so much, Katina. You are one beautiful soul. Thank you for everything you shared.
You're welcome.
Authentic power is so powerful. And you said that if you want to have someone's highlight reel in their lives, then you also have to own the journey of all the things that they're overcoming. I love that, because we forget that a lot of
We
times. It
forget
just
that. Yes.
Katina, she's so happy. I'm feeling miserable, and it's like
Right.
you get sad. It's like you go through an emotional roller coaster for no reason. Staying true to you, so true. Thanks so much for
Amen.
all that. Loved it, loved it.
You're welcome.
Wow. Okay. I'm always filled up with inspiration. It's like food for your thought, food for your soul, right? Everything everyone is sharing. It's just like amazing to be able to hear that. So I hope that you guys are having the same aha moments, and you're finding all this amazing. Let us know in the comments. Join us. We're also part of our Facebook. We're in our community, actually, Badass Mission Driven Entrepreneurs. And you can connect with me on Instagram as well at Alona Lupari Official, and just share your insights. I would love to hear. It's always about the impact, because these amazing ladies definitely deserve to hear from you there. And there's so much more amazing. I would say all of you connect. Collaboration. There's so much beautiful collaboration that can come out of just conversations and all these beautiful relationships that are stemming here. So definitely do that. All right, I'm going to my last but not least speaker. Steph Palermos. Steph Palermo is her second time actually join our summit. So it's so amazing to hear her story. So I can't wait for everything that she'll share with us today. Steph, thanks so much for being here again, and we love to hear. And you have the stage. Love to hear a little bit more about
Thank you, Alona. I'm thrilled to be here, especially to share my book. So this is my third book. I've written three, and I've actually shared with the community a free download of my first book. So there's a link right there in the comments. So I wrote, It's Not Personal, Sonny, It's Business, How to Run Your Family Life and Business Like a Sicilian. For a lot of reasons. I was raised steeped in Sicilian traditions. I love those traditions so much. I loved the dinner table. I still do. I host Sunday dinner with my family quite often. When I say family, I mean cousins, kids, friends, all of that. And I learned so much from my Sicilian upbringing. And I started to spend extended time in Sicily. And as I was going along, I was getting sort of smacked in the face with my own lessons that I would be talking about with clients and audiences, sort of on steroids. And one sort of quick story is we would be walking to the piazza from the home, and we had our cocktails and we're just talking and walking, but I obviously was walking in my own quick American way, trying to get to the piazza quickly to meet our friends. And my friend said to me, he said in Italian, "Where are you going? What are you doing?" He said, "Slow down." And I immediately was, oh my gosh, this is about the journey. It's about the stroll. And I have a million, every time I go, no matter how advanced I think I am in my own personal growth, I get lessons every single day. So I took what I found as the 10 pillars of Sicilian life: the family, the dinner table, respect, loyalty, generosity, forgiveness, fear or lack thereof, leisure, purpose-driven work, and love. Of course, everything is based upon their belief in God and spirituality. So that's without having to be said. But I talk about these in each of the chapters, and I give practical applications on how to bring these into your family if you're already married with kids, and into your life if you're not married and you just want to or you don't have a big family support system, and into your business, which will help you keep your business running like a family who loves and trusts each other, and is therefore no one's worried about their jobs. Everybody's willing to help out. Everybody's staying in their lane. In a family, the mom doesn't want to be the baby. The baby doesn't want to be everybody has their roles. And it's the same in business. When you make the environment, or you create a family environment, and nobody leaves. And all of these things I discuss, and I have little stories on how on what these mean, and how I learned in Sicily and how I learned in my family. And at the beginning of the book is an introduction to how my family actually immigrated from Sicily to America. And at the end, I have some Sicilian recipes, some from my grandmother, some from other Sicilians that I love. And I wanted to share all of that with everybody. And I love Sicily so much, and I learned something every time I'm there. And the book helps people to see what I see. But then I also have retreats in Sicily where I want everybody to come and learn from the Sicilians, because they have there's everything's always maybe. Everybody's relaxed. There's no blood pressure. Everyone's just breathing along, and it's all okay. Everything's okay. Everything's a big maybe. We don't know what time. It could be this, it could be that. And it sounds maybe a little irresponsible, but they have this purpose-driven work where they want to share their talents with you, not to make a killing on business, but to actually share their gifts. And so the whole idea is not to sort of make a killing in terms of finances and money. They want to support their families and the things that they love, but they would much rather sit in the coffee shop with their friends talking and supporting them than getting a second job. So there's so much to the Sicilian life that I believe so many of us in our families, we've been given some of this, but we just have forgotten, and we don't really even realize how important things like loyalty. Who's loyal anymore? Nobody is loyal. They're not loyal to their jobs. They're not loyal to their friends. They're not people aren't reliable. These are values that we've lost. We've lost here, especially in America. And so my book is here to teach some of those things and pique interest, and also to pique interest in a life that will be could be amazing, fun, filled with joy and laughter, and free from the shackles of limiting beliefs, experiences, and people that don't serve us, toxic relationships, all of that. If following these guidelines will help us to be sensitive to how we take care of ourselves and how we see the world and how we will be treated in return.
Oh, beautiful. It's so amazing. And I love traveling for that reason, Steph. And we were chatting about this before, that you learn so much from other cultures that sometimes you just take for granted in your own life. And a lot of times other lifestyles, it's like, oh, I can actually do this as well. So there's so much to say regarding, how people in Sicily live their lives, and we have some commonality because I'm also Albanian and we're like neighbors there. But I always appreciated the social aspect of the community, as you said. People are not, profit driven. That is not why I wake up in the morning, but they're purpose driven. They like to chat with their friends. They like to connect. They like to take it easy, let life flow, be in the present moment. All these things that here in this culture where we live in, I'm in the US as well, we have to intentionally set habits because it's not, the way of the way that we see the environment around us.
Absolutely. And I immerse myself in the culture, and I have so many friends all over the island now. However, in the Paese, the small little town that I stay in, I've made really friends with a lot of even younger folks, because I'm 55. So I have some of these things that I lived with growing up, and I miss them. However, I find that the younger generation doesn't even have the understanding, or they don't even know what they're missing. And, they're just too busy with the technology and texting. But I will say that something will always be missing in their lives. They just won't know how to fill it. In Sicily, I noticed that the younger people, they'll come and they'll sit at the dinner table for hours on end. Nobody says, I got to go. I can't stay long. Nobody does that. Nobody says, oh, I got to go. No, they sit and relax. And you really cannot build relationships if you don't have time to spend, conversations, stop texting, get off have eye contact. People forget. They don't realize that it's something like 95% of communication is nonverbal. It's the eye rolls, or the breathing, the turning of the head, the hand movements, all of that. And if you're texting or you're not getting any of that, people are not going to be able to understand people going, then you got to look at somebody's eyes. They don't even know what that means to be able to trust people. You can't, people don't realize how much they're missing by not spending time together.
Which is why we have to be so intentional, because at the end of the day, spiritual fulfillment, we all know this, all of us, I'm sure, comes from relationships, right? The value and the quality of our relationships.
Yep.
So I love that you said that. Especially, I think this generation is definitely in danger for that. I do see a lot of challenges. As much as, technology has created this right here that we connect with globally.
Absolutely.
And now we have a friend, you in Sicily, when you go there, and you can give us a tour guide if we decide to visit, or anywhere else that we are physically located. This is the beauty of technology, but of course, just like with anything, there's also other side effects is that we're dealing with, not just mental health and all of that. So we do our best. Thanks so much for bringing awareness to that, and for everything that you shared. And I think cultures, like being rich in culture, it just grows you. It's just like gives you so much insight and opens up your mind to all the different perspectives of people and how people live, right? And you just find some common threads from traveling. At the end of the day, it's not the money, it's not the monetary, it's the spiritual fulfillment. And just like Heather shared, the self-love that stems from everything else that we do. So doing work that fulfills us takes care of the rest, really, of all the other things that we want to have in our lives, for sure. So
absolutely,
I want to thank you all, beautiful ladies, for sharing everything that you did. It was inspirational, informational, educational, all the E's together. I want to thank you for everything that you've shared and the journey with us. And I know you will have include the links to your communities where people can follow you along in your journey, and also the link to your books. Right inside the Facebook group that's called Badass Mission Driven Entrepreneurs. And guys, let's build our libraries. So physical books is nothing like a good physical book. I know we do audio. I know we consume content in so many, ways today. And I'm okay with that, because net time, you want to save time. I understand, but there's nothing like a physical book to fill your libraries. And have a goal of at least, if you can do one a week. I mean, leaders or readers, one a month, one every 2 months. Set an intentional goal to read, and don't just read regarding the area of your work, where your work is mostly concerned. Read regarding other areas, read journeys of other people's stories, biographies. I mean, you just cannot help but just grow yourself at all these different dimensions and levels. And I find that because of that information you're gathering, you're able to articulate it in your work. It just becomes natural, right? So you just practice all those skills all at the same time. And not to mention that books always spark the most amazing ideas of inspiration. So you just don't know that out of one book, you might just have your next project that might just change people's lives. So that's the power of books. So definitely connect with each other, connect with all the ladies in here. I thank you all. And we have reached the end of our summit. You'll find the summit as a podcast also at the Life School Masterclass show. So please support the ladies, support one another, and also support our communities, so that we can bring you more of these amazing conversations and connect you with more amazing purpose-driven entrepreneurs around the world. Thanks so much, ladies, and have a beautiful rest of your Thursday. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.